Hey everybody, it's me, Z from T.E.A.M and World of Z. Hey, so today's deck profile is on the Claret sword deck that I've built, and I would just like to say I'm very proud of this deck. It was built completely to be, more unique than any other Claret sword deck I've ever seen. So I tried to keep it as unique as possible. I've only seen 2 or 3 deck profiles, but I tried them, weren't my thing, so I messed about with a bunch of units, and I believe I figured out the best way to play in this deck. I might be wrong, but hey, it's, to me, I've never had an issue with it. So we'll jump into the deck first. Now we'll start with the starter, and the reason I stick with Bassinet Knight is because well, the counter charging is good. I like the counter charging. It goes into the soul for soul play as well. Lets you top deck, top deck anything you want, like a nullifier or a stride enabler, which is mainly the idea, because you'll see why I run stride enablers at 3. But this guarantees me one anyway. It just does that for me, and I normally get the Claret crit, so I normally call it out when I've done this. So if I don't go into Aura Guys or Doom. Dragon or Doomed, I can soul charge and draw the card I've put on top of the deck, and it's still a counter charge, and I guarantee that card. So I don't draw randomly. I know what I'm going to be drawing. So Bassinet Knight is a lot better option than the new one, which is a counter blast. Look top 7 for a Claret, add to hand. If you Vanguard's Claret, draw a card. I prefer this because the counter charging is quite needed, to be fair. Right, grade 3s. We run 4 copies of the new Claret because he's just so good. Counter blast 1, just keep looking until you see 2 grade 1s, add 1 to hand and 1 to field. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty decent skill. Like, I've normally get a nullify to hand and, I don't know, a nice grade 1 out here to the field, or the grade 2, which counts as a grade 1 in deck, which is fucking amazing with this deck. His Generation Break 2 is actually really decent. I've used it once or twice in a game. It technically cost me the game because I could have guarded an extra, but I wanted to use his GB2 just because of funsies. When this unit is attacked, choose one of your grade 1 rear guards and you may move it to Guardian Circle. If you do, and if you have no rear guards, this unit gains 2k. Now, it becomes 13k. It doesn't say until it says the end of turn, not the end of that battle. So it becomes a 13. So if your opponent goes, oh, I called this out as 11 attack, won't hit. So this is very, very handy. And for the spicy grade 1, I run 1 copy of the old Claret because, to be fair, calling out a grade 1 and giving it 2k is very good, especially if you're aiming for Sword Breaker. It's an 8k booster and you get the Sword Blast and draw a card. GB2 is okay, I guess, but meh. So retire 2 for 10k and a crit. It's enough for spiciness. Now, if you're going to cringe to my grade 3s, 5 grade 3s. It's all I run. I don't need any other grade 3s. And have I ever had an issue with grade 3s? No, I haven't, to be fair. They've been pretty neat. So grade 2s. I run 3 copies of Gay Pride Dragon. Well, like I said, counter charging is always a thing, and I do run Dark Quartz in here. I probably could run Dark Quartz more, but this is in here because it's fun. I like the mechanic of Gay Pride Dragon. Then we've got 4 copies of Morion Spear. This is the card I absolutely love. So in deck, it minuses a grade if you have a Claret Sword Vanguard, which you will. So it's grade 1. So even when you're looking, keep looking. This counts as a grade 1 in the search. This is really good, and when it's boosted by grade 1, gains 5k. This is a very, very good grade 2. This makes columns. This makes 21 columns. That's what I like. This deck's all about the 21 columns. So just 21 columns. I do run 2 copies of Greymew because Greymew has come in handy once or twice when I've needed to get certain cards out, and he's just there if I need it, really. Yeah, just an option. We have Big Mac Daddy of Power. I do run this at 2 instead of 4, which a lot of people do run it at 4, but it's just an option because, like I said, I have other ways, and I prefer to keep grade 1s coming rather than the grade 2s. So if he is on the field, then he gets a good old buff, and we like that. It's all about power in this deck. So I run 4 copies of Erez instead of the Unflip Nullify, because the Unflip potential in this deck is high as high as I can get it without the Unflips. And I like these for the pure fact of, you know, I will have like a unit on the field that sometimes never gets used or so, and these do come in handy when I need a nullifying hand if I know I'm not going to kill my opponent in one turn. So Ezreaz is pretty good for this deck, I guess. It's like one of the ritual cards I use in this deck. Then we have 3 Stride Enabler. I know everyone's crying at me, like, you run 5 grade 3s and 3 Stride Enablers, what is wrong with you? Remember, the starter can put this to the top of the deck. If I have to hard stride as my first stride, so I honestly don't mind. Yeah, basically just that reason. Stride Enabler for Stride Enabler. 2 copies of this Swift Owl. Soul Blast for 7k is pretty stupid, and if I've got a 7k behind it, boom, magical 21k columns. I do try and aim for this with the Claret Stride, because I can like go, okay, cool, and then if my opponent G-guards again, I can like call over it with another one. So, plays for days. 2 copies of Abyss Summoner, mainly for soul charging purposes and counter charging purposes, and power is a 10k booster, it's pretty handy. 2 copies of Night Sky Owl. Night Sky Owl is, on course 4k, so he's an 11. And we all know 11 is a number that can hit, so it's always handy. 2 copies of Dark Quartz Dragon. I could run this at a 3, and I would love to run this at 3. Sadly, in reality, I only own 2 copies, which I need to get a 3rd. But I do have another option which doesn't seem to work out as in this deck, so I probably will replace it with the Dark Quartz. So when Dark Quartz is placed on the rear guard, he gains 3k, and if my Claret Sword Vanguard, he gains 3k, and my Vanguard gains 3k. So it's a power boost, and we like power boosts. This is the card that I would take out for another Quartz. I thought she would be handy in here at 1, but no, I'd rather play cards that gain power than give power. So yeah, so she'll probably come out. And then the 1 Techie Spicy Swordbreaker, because we know we like to have that hand advantage, baby. Now, trigger lineup is pretty average in this deck, I guess. 4 Claret Sword crit, and 2 copies of Unicorn, just because reasons. Because I do run the Luard Stride in this deck, I was thinking of the Luard crit. However, I don't want too much draw, so it's been quite nice in this deck. I like the whole crit goes back into the deck and everything, but at the end of the turn, due to ruling, your stride goes back to your G zone. So during the end of your turn, your Vanguard is what your heart was, and because I don't have Luard as a heart, I can't use its go back to skill or something like that. I don't know. I hardly ever use Luard. If I'm wrong, you can tell me in the comments. Blah blah blah. So yeah. Anyway, back to me spiciness. 2 Abyssal Owl. Not Abyssal Owl. Oh my god! I just said about that. Howl Owl. Draw triggers when you draw is pretty nice. Intersoul for 3k comes in handy every now and then. I do tend to do it, or it's just a 5k to drop for Luard if I need it. And then I run this guy at 4 because rebuilding the deck with stand triggers is hilarious. It's hilarious as shit. It's fun as well, especially when you get like triple stand and your opponent's like, but why? And you're like, well, because reasons. Heal triggers, 2 Revenger heals and 2 other Fires Collection heals, I guess. There's no reason for it. I literally don't have 2 more of these, but these are just in here because they're spare shadow heals. These are also spare shadow heals. It doesn't matter what heals you use. In the end of the day, they're just heal triggers. Okay, G-Zone. We'll start off with the main man. Good old Claret Sword. Helium. I run him at 3, not 4. The reason I run him at 3, and it's not because the other 2 copies I own are in the Luard deck I have, it's mainly because I only ever flip him twice when I go into him. Because his skill is just unbelievable. So you can start the SP. I'll read a triple red. You can just sexy SP. Right. Choose a face down card the same name as this unit from your G zone and turn it face up. When a Sentinel or a G Guardian is placed on your opponent's Guardian circle, or when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 or less cards with as the same number as face up cards in your G zone. Call them to separate rear guards and shuffle your deck. Now, it doesn't state once per turn. If my rear guard attacks and you G guard that rear guard because it's a high number, I will call something over it, which basically ends up making that attack completely nullified. But not only nullifies the attack, it makes your Guardian or G Guardian completely useless. So I can multi-attack with this guy, and I like it. It's very, very handy. It can be a game ender. I never thought at first that he would be a good game ender. He'd just be like a field setup. But he can be very, very nasty. It's why I run a lot of grade 1s and a grade 2 that can gain lots of power. He'll either be my first stride if I know I can pull it off. I'll only flip one up. Or if I G-guard, I can end up flipping one up and call 2, so call a free column. And if I do it again, I can call 3. So if I've killed attack with this column, I can just call one out and maybe a sword breaker to draw. So yeah, he's scary. If I go into this, you're pretty much boned if you need to guard. But I tend to try and rush to get my opponents to 4 or 5, so they have to guard somehow. We do run Drag Driver Luard sometimes, maybe sometimes. He's my first choice in Stride. Mainly if I know I've got plenty of soul to play with a Swordbreaker, if I call out a Swordbreaker. Swordbreaker gains power, happy days. It's in here just because it's an option if I need it, really. Because everyone's taken out a Luard. It's a completely useless card in Luard now, but in Claret he works. He good. He bay. I run 1 copy of was it Drag Anger? Drag Anger Ogma. Now, this was one of the most useless freaking G-Rares or SGRs you could run in Luard at the time. A lot of people ran it because it was okay. Discard and retire was pretty cool. See, in Claret, there are times I have a full field of grade 1s. That's good for this. Then I can just absolutely dominate with this card. Because I've gone against a Harry deck. I know Harry puts the stuff back in the soul, but this caused the Harry deck to die. It died due to this. It's actually stopped down quite a lot of cards. Fair enough, not Night Rose and it's not a Luard killer. It's like, oh, 5 cards? Oh, that's fine. But it's a handy card, and it also field kills if you need it. If, Doomed isn't enough. I do run 1 copy of Drag Strider Luard, mainly because he's the main game ender of this deck. It's how this deck would win some games, obviously, because he's just a good card. Ritual 7 isn't hard in a deck that runs 17 grade 1s, so comes in handy. I do run Spectral Blaster Diablo. I don't run Phantom Blaster Diablo, which sometimes I've always wished I did, but I prefer playing things like this. He restands, he's a good pressure, can be a game ender. I'd probably try and get 1 copy of him in SP just for this deck, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Then we've got 3 Aura Geyser Dragons. There's, just sometimes, mainly the first stride, depends on if I need hand, depending on what I'm against. If I don't need hand, I just try and field kill. If my opponent hasn't got a field, then this is who I'll go for. If they do have a field, a good old Doomed, because Doomed is doomed, and you'll be doomed when Doomed comes to Doom, for reasons. For ages as well, I've been playing it 2 Dragon and 1 Doom, just so he has something to flip. But there have been other things I flipped. I flipped an Ogma, I flipped the spare Helium. So, depending on how my game ends up. So yeah, this deck has its needs for strides, and it works. It works. Now G Guardians, I run one copy of the new rare G Guardian, mainly because it's good. It's not bad. I've pulled off 5 grade 1s, which, to be fair, was a bad choice. This is not my first G Guard choice, but hey, whatever. Of course, good 2-old plot maker, because he plots against my opponents like a bitch, and we like it when he plots. His 10k is quite funny. So yeah, it's just silly. Ritual 3 for plots. Now this G Guard, Witch Queen of whatever, a lot of people said not to run it in Luard, and I can see why. You don't want to kill all the grade 1s on your field. However, in Claret's sword, you tend to have grade 1s that have had their use, and you don't need them on the field as much because you've built your hand, or you just superior call a shit ton anyway. She not only basically gives you an extra 10 shield from the 2 grade 1s you choose, she lets you draw a card. And in Claret, that's hilarious. It just works. She works in Claret. So, I would aim to flip. I'd aim to flip her for her skills. So, it works. I've always liked that fact that she works. So, that, my friends, is my Claret sword deck profile. Now, let me know what you think of the profile. I like to hear people's oh, why'd you run this? I don't understand that. What the hell? I don't get it. I get that sort of stuff a lot. But Claret is a deck that I've had since he first came out in, oh god, I can't remember what set. Let's have a quick peeky weeky. GBTO3. Just because I can remember the set. GBTO3 was definitely one of the best days of my life, because it was a shadow deck that was about draw power and guaranteeing good guard, and it wasn't all about power or anything like that. Like, Aura Geyser Dragon was a pretty decent card. Aura Geyser Dooms was a very, very good card for a while. Then it died, and then it came back because of Luard. But I cried when I saw Luard was the new main thing and Claret didn't get nothing. And I was like, oh, come on, Bushy Road, give Claret something. And they did. They eventually got 2.5 or something like that years later, a stride, a new grade 3, a new grade 2. It's all it needed was just a boost. And it got it. And because of that boost, this deck, I believe, is now very, very strong. I'm yet to test it. Oh no, I have tested it out against Vanquisher. Vanquisher, this can outplay Vanquisher quickly. It will die to Vanquisher sometimes, but it'll outplay it quickly. Genesis, this will shut down up unless you're against Fenrir Wiseman and they get the combo off, then you're dead. Link Joker, I've had no issues. Neo Nectar, I've had no issues. Grand Blue, I've had no issues. Royal Paladin Blaster, I've had no issues. But yeah, it's pretty decent, and I quite like it. The deck build as it is now is perfect, unless more Shadow support comes out that allows me to run it in this. Yeah, so I'm just happy with that, and it's mainly because of all the grade 1s that are out that lets me play power plays, and you got the stand triggers that go back as well. Maybe the Luard crits if I decide to put Luard crits in here, because they're not always used. I can always guard with them, which is cool, because normally in the Luard deck you're sitting there thinking, oh, do I call this to retire it for draw? Now the only time you do that is if you go into the Luard stride, and then you can plan ahead for that, which is pretty nice. Or you just guard with it, and then at the end of your turn you put it to the deck if requirements allowed. So yes, this is Claret. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've played it. Tell me your thoughts on it. And before I end this video, yes, 5 grade 3s is quite low for a deck. A lot of people are going to try and build this and go, oh, I don't get a grade 3, it's a bad deck, after trying it 2 or 3 times. Just understand, not every deck is built for everyone to play. This is built to my play style and the way I like to play, because I like unique deck builds. There are only 1 or 2 decks that I have built that are, there's only one way to build and play it. the deck, such as Night Rose and stuff like that. Like, no matter what you change in it, it's going to be someone else is going to have it. Someone probably does have this list, as far as I'm aware. No one does. But yeah, this is built for my play, and if you actually got on with it, then give me a comment and like. I'd like to see videos of people playing decks like this, because Claret Sword needs to come back, because fuck Luard, fuck Abyss, fuck Diablo, fuck Revengers, all that stuff. Just bring good old Claret Sword back to at least tier 1.5. Just give him that little edge of 1.5. That's all we need. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video, which will hopefully be very soon. And yeah, see you then. Bye bye.